Welcome to Affluence and Advocacy, NY Real Estate Law.
Hey, and welcome back to Affluence and Advocacy, New York Real Estate Law with Natalia Sishodia. Today, we're diving into a very important topic, the role of an executor in managing an estate. Many believe being an executor is just about signing documents, but it's actually much more than that. Here to walk us through the details is Natalia Sishodia. Welcome, Natalia. Good to see you again.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you. Yes, being an executor is a huge responsibility, and it's crucial for anyone appointed to this role to understand their duties and responsibilities. It goes far beyond just transferring the property or assets to the beneficiaries.
All right, well, let's start at the beginning. Let's start with the basics. What's the first step an executor should take once they've been named in a will?
So the first thing as an executor must do is to confirm their role by locating the original will. Once they have the will, it should be filed with the surrogate court in the county where the decedent resided. For instance, if the decedent lived in Manhattan, the will needs to be submitted to the Manhattan surrogate court. At Ashia PLLC, we assist our clients in preparing the necessary documents for a probate, such as the initial petition, all necessary waivers, consents from beneficiaries, and affidavits to prove heirship. The process can feel overwhelming, but with legal guidance, it becomes manageable.
You mentioned probate. Can you share a story about a client you helped navigate that probate process?
Of course, Kevin. I can think of one client who came to us after their previous attorney had been struggling for 3 years to obtain letters of testamentary, which are essential to administer the estate, to probate the estate. When we reviewed the application, we found several errors. We immediately corrected those mistakes. We also reached out the court representative and just confirmed the requirements and what documents they were still missing, submitted those, and then aggressively followed up with the court. And 4 months later, our client had secured the letters testamentary and was able to proceed with the sale of estate assets. What had been stalled for 3 years was resolved just in a few months with the proper action.
That's impressive. What happens if an executor passes away before the estate is settled?
Unfortunately, we've seen this situation as well. We had a case where we had a client who was an executor of the estate of her friend. She was also sole beneficiary. And before finalizing the friend's estate, executor is passing away midway through the process. When this happens, court must appoint a successor executor. So we just going back to our case, we had to probate the estate of the deceased executor first, and then go back to the friend's estate and finish that probate. So situation like this, of course, can complicate matters, especially if the decedent's will doesn't name an alternate executor. In this case, we worked with beneficiaries and the court to appoint a new executor so the estate administration, estate probate could continue without unnecessary delays. Our role was to make sure the transition was smooth, minimizing stress for the family.
Yeah, absolutely. That is incredibly stressful. What are some of the main responsibilities of the executor?
The main responsibilities of the executor include, number one, identifying all the assets of the deceased, understanding the liabilities of the deceased, paying the estate's taxes and debts, opening an estate bank account to get all the receipts there and pay all the estate expenses out of the same bank account, filing the will with the surrogate's court to initiate the probate process, creating an inventory of the assets, ensuring the safekeeping and maintenance of any property that executor receives. And of course, distributing assets to beneficiaries according to the wishes of the deceased. And at the end, to finalize the estate, filing final accounting with the court and closing the estate.
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility. What are some of the common questions you get from executors about their role?
So I would say the most confusion arises around the assets. And one of the most frequent questions we get is about which assets should be included in the estate and which assets should be excluded. Executors sometimes struggle with understanding what qualifies for probate. In one particular case, an executor was uncertain about the decedent's assets. After reviewing the documents and accounts, we clarified that only 3 remaining assets would go through probate, while the others were either held in trust or had designated beneficiaries. This discovery simplified the process significantly, and the executor was relieved to learn that fewer assets were subject to probate.
Yeah, I would say it's being thorough is pretty critical for these. What happens when an executor is just really overwhelmed by the amount of work that this entails?
Yes, that's something is not avoidable here. Work of the executor can be really overwhelming. Executors, because they have to manage estate property, pay off the debts, and ensure taxes are filed on time. And this is all while dealing with the grief of losing a loved one. For example, they need to gather a large number of certified death certificates, often around 10 to 20, and notify all the banks, creditors, and all the government agencies. So we encourage our clients' executors to work with professionals, including estate attorneys, financial advisors, appraisers, real estate agents, to make the process smoother for them. For instance, we often help to set up estate bank accounts, obtain estate tax IDs to manage the financial side, pay off some of the debts, and distribute assets properly.
Having legal help is key in these situations, no doubt about that. What's your final piece of advice for someone who's been appointed as an executor?
So my main advice to someone who is appointed as an executor is to stay organized and seek professional help early in the process. Executors need to inventory all the assets, keep track of debts and taxes, and ensure everything is managed according to the law and the will. The sooner they get started on gathering the necessary documents like the will, financial records, statements, and death certificates, the sooner the process will be. And of course, don't hesitate to reach out to a probate attorney for guidance. We are here to take some of the burden off the executor's shoulders, ensuring that the estate is managed efficiently and in the line with the legal requirements.
Yeah, that's great advice, Natalia. Thank you so much for shedding light on the complexities of being an executor. If anyone listening needs guidance on estate matters, reach out to Sishodia PLLC for professional assistance.
Thank you, Kevin. We are always here to help.